Flooding is the #1 weather killer here in the Ozarks. Branson is particularly prone to flooding because so much runoff flows into Table Rock Lake. When lake levels are high, it's just a matter of time until the floodgates are open and Lake Taneycomo floods.
Wipe the house out. We can't rebuild it.
4 years ago, Larry Hooper's house on Lake Taneycomo flooded. No one in the community thought a flood of this magnitude would happen again in their lifetime. But just 3 years later, last April, it happened again, only worse. 8 more feet of water than in 2008.
We redid the dock a little bit so it doesn't cut loose and go down the river.
Hooper has now been told he can't rebuild unless he raises the house by 20 feet. FEMA has rezoned the land along Lake Taneycomo. It went from a floodplain to a floodway.
We're basically in the spillway of the dam. And I don't think the county should have ever allowed that to be built in.
The floods last year were bad, but they could have been much worse. The flooding wasn't bad enough for the Corps to open these auxiliary gates at Table Rock Dam. Odds are against ever having to use those gates, but there's always a chance.
I guess in theory there is, because that's why they built it. But that would be bad for all of us.
If both sets of gates had to be open all the way, the flood level at Taneycomo would have been 10 times what it was last year. That would leave the landing and even Highway 65 underwater. It's highly unlikely to happen, but not impossible.
They just need to prepare to move out and move out quickly.
Barron said the county tries to give people 3 hours of warning before the floodgates are open, but there's no guarantee. Hooper said when his family had to find higher ground the second time, that it would be the last.
I would have wished that we'd had more information on the area. If we'd have known this, we probably wouldn't have bought it here.
Hooper and his wife are living in a temporary home in Branson right now, and they are still waiting on FEMA to buy their land. To give you an idea of just how much worse the floods could be, last year they opened all 10 of the floodgates only 6 inches. They could be opened a total of 44 inches.
Leading this hour's news, Governor Jay Nixon has just signed a $2.4 billion bill, and much of it is focused on helping kids with autism.
The governor signed the bill here in Springfield at the Burrell Autism Center. KSPR's Aaron Bowl is live there with more on why that new law is so important to people in the Ozarks. Aaron?
Guys, just a little bit ago, Governor Jay Nixon signed House Bill 2010 into law, and what that will do is provide about $10 million of funding for families with autism, so that will give them projects and also programs which will help subsidize, and some of them will actually get the service for free. So for families with autism, if it wasn't for that bill, life wouldn't be the same.
Now can I have a hug? Yeah, can I have a hug? Oh,
Thank you. I love you.
Elizabeth Obrey has 5 kids, 3 of which have autism. Doctors caught it early in her son, Nathan.
He still struggles. He does really well, and then he'll have a regression, which is not uncommon. And then we have to rebuild those skills and languages, and that's why it's so vital to have these things available for parents to be able to utilize.
The therapy is expensive. The private school he attends for autism is at least $2,000 a month. That is why Governor Jay Nixon says this bill is important.
As parents and medical professionals can tell you, this therapy is expensive, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars a year, but it works.
Ober's daughter Nicole also has autism, but because of therapy, you would never know it unless you were told.
Without those, she would not be in college today. She would not be a thriving member of society, working, paying taxes, and doing all the things she did.
Now, the bill will go into effect on July 1st, so we're talking about 10 or so days from now. When it does, it is expected to help an additional 375 children. Joe?
It's a big difference. Thanks, Aaron Bull, reporting live today. Today's bill. One spring several years ago, Jim Quarles got a little carried away with gardening, but it turned into a great opportunity to help others.
We call it farming the backyard.
3 decades ago, Quarles was an Ozarks farmer. He moved away, and when he returned, he bought an acre of land to live on and have a garden.
The next row is mushmelons or cantaloupes.
One day he started to till his land, but did a little more than he wanted.
And I started having a panic attack about what we were going to do with the food.
A friend told him about the Ozarks Food Harvest, and that was the beginning of a bountiful partnership. Last year alone, Quarles donated 6,000 pounds of fresh produce.
I told my wife, I said, I don't want to make money off this. I want to help people.
Bart Brown with the Ozarks Food Harvest said obesity rates are high among the poor because healthy food is more expensive. That is why fresh produce is always welcome.
Our shelves behind me, they're pretty bare. Summertime is a low time for food donations for us. If we can supplement that with nutritious fresh produce that's grown here in the Ozarks, that's a win for everybody.
And that is where Quarles gets to have fun and feed the Ozarks.
We get to raise it, we get to harvest it, then we get to take it. And that's wonderful.
There's still time in the growing season, so if you want to plant some extra rows in your garden, you can bring the surplus of produce right here to the Ozark Food Harvest. In Springfield, Aaron Bull, KSBR News.